All right. And it's Dr. Engel, correct? Am I
Aghel.
saying? Ah, great. Thank you for clarifying. So thank you again for meeting with us and speaking to the St. John the Apostle School. We appreciate your time. Can you start out just giving us a little bit about your background and kind of how you became in your role?
Sure. So, thank you for having me. I actually have kids ranging from age almost 4 to 14. So, this is an audience, at least I'm familiar with as a mom, maybe not so much as a public speaker, but so I'm excited to talk to the students today. So, my name is Sharon Engel. I'm a physician. I've been at Overlook Medical Center for almost 14 years. So there's a trend there, 14. And I lead the Department of Internal Medicine. So when you come into the hospital, pretty much when you see a heart doctor, a lung doctor, an ICU doctor, all of those fall under me. So a lot of what I do is work to lead those groups of physicians in a coordinated way and build programs and make sure we're keeping our patients safe. I also, of course, take care of patients. All of the patients I take care of are in the hospital, so they tend to be a little bit sicker with our goal to get them home and healthy back to their families. I'm a New Jersey girl. So most of my schooling is done here in the state, big Rutgers girl. So we made it to the, at least part of the March Madness. Um, and then I went to the University of Pennsylvania for my training and then came back home to Jersey, where all my family is, and decided to set up shop here. So
Great. Yeah, I know that we were excited in our house too over Rutgers making it as far as it did. A little disappointing, but you know what? That's the whole part of
it
March Madness.
Yeah, it's a big goal we achieved, I think. So
Yeah,
next year we'll.
I think once you see the momentum of the first win, you're like, they're gonna make it all the way,
100%.
which is
I know.
fantastic. It's super fun. Well, and it's nice to be able to see sports again too. You know, it's been a little bit hit or
Absolutely.
miss this year. So speaking of this past year, can you speak a little bit about what it was like to treat people in the midst of a pandemic? I know that that's still happening, obviously. You know, it's not ended. And can you talk a little bit about the sacrifices you and your colleagues have had to make in your own lives in order to be able to treat others?
Sure. So, I think we've spent a year doing this, and how we started is very different than how we are now, which is a good thing. We've made a lot of progress in the last year, which is really excellent, and really due to good science. So, in the beginning, I think we all remember those. It was actually just about last week when things started to slow down and things started to shut down and all the schools closed and everybody stayed home and thought this was going to be a 2 week shutdown and we'd go back to normal life. Well, obviously the hospitals had a very different perspective because as everybody was slowing down we were speeding up. And we started to see a few patients come into the hospital with COVID, and then it really came in waves. So we admitted patients quite quickly and in a large amount. And it was a scary time. I mean, it was a scary time because we didn't have a lot of information on this disease, and we didn't know necessarily how to protect ourselves and to protect our families. So, I mean, if you look at healthcare rituals and all of us doctors and nurses and our people that help clean the hospital, I'm sure we all had crazy rituals when we went home, taking off our clothes, jumping in the shower, just to make sure our families were safe because, you didn't know what you were going to bring home. At least in those early days where we didn't really know enough. So, I ended up spending 3 months of that beginning, not even sleeping in the same room with my husband. I slept in the guest room just to keep him safe. With my kids, again, I would run into the house before anybody touched me, kind of like my own personal game of Pac-Man, and would jump in the shower. And then when I'd sit on the couch, I'd try not to sit next to them. I'd have a blanket covered over me. I mean, none of this made sense probably scientifically, but, it was the things we did to help make ourselves feel like we were keeping our families safe. And then, of course, we spent a ton of time at work, right? Where everybody else was spending a ton of time at home. So obviously the hours were long, the days were long, but we knew we were doing this for a good purpose. We were doing this to protect our patients. We were doing this to help people get home to their families and their loved ones. And a year later, looking back, we're in a completely different place, right? It doesn't feel like it all the time, but we know how to better take care of both ourselves and our families and our patients. And we're able to send so many more patients home, and we're able to keep people safe if we do the right things, right? So we've really learned that there are simple things we can do to keep us all safe, masking being one of the biggest.
Absolutely. I know, with not knowing things, we were wiping down all of our groceries. When one of us would go to the grocery store, we would physically change and immediately jump into the shower. And then
Yeah.
the person who was home would like wipe down all the surfaces that they touched.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the unknown, and obviously research and impact takes time.
Yeah.
But I think that we've been fortunate with so many researchers and clinicians focused on trying to understand things better, that it's we still have a ways to go, but we know a lot more than last year for sure. You spoke about some of the more challenging parts of the year. Are there any highlights that you can speak to that really stand out to you?
Yeah. When we first came out of the first wave, I suppose, that March to as we started to enter spring into June, late spring into summer. You know, when you had a moment to kind of think and come out of the initial, I suppose, chaos of it all, you were left with this sense of purpose. You were left with this sense of teamwork that, if you ever participated on a team sport or a team activity where you were working really, really hard with your team to kind of get to some goal, and you won the championship or you won whatever it was. And we didn't win per se, but we came out of this, and we came out of this a lot stronger. And it was somewhat similar. It was a similar feeling that you were almost like, I'm proud to work alongside all of these people that I've worked alongside. And we really did something here, So um, I think that was a major highlight. I think the other major highlights are kind of coming out now. If you think about science, and if you're a science person and love science, science typically takes a long time. But this year, because everybody was working so strongly across the world for one scientific thing, right? To understand this disease and understand how to fight it and to get a vaccine, um, things happen very quickly. And the fact that we have excellent science and excellent things now that we didn't have a year ago, and it's in the science world, a year is a very short time. I think that's also really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I travel a lot for my job. So as, obviously, challenging of the situation, it's certainly not something that I would wish to ever occur again. I hope it's a once in a lifetime situation. There are benefits. I was able to, spend more time with my family. And honestly, it helped me put things more in perspective. I'm very much the impatient, I don't want to describe it as the New Jersey mentality, but we're always moving, right? Sometimes it's hard for us to pause, or at least it is for this Jersey girl. But it helped me have more patience, put things in perspective a little bit more. So I don't know if I would have evolved that quickly. Maybe with time, I would hope that I would get there, but that helped me tremendously, and I felt like I too could provide and play a part, even while you were all leaning in, and we were taking a step back. We were still contributing. So it was teamwork all around. It brings communities together, I feel.
Absolutely. Actually, that also brings to mind, we really felt the support of the community. I mean, kids would send us cards and we hung them in our offices. Like those were awesome, it kept our spirits up, right? The community would send us food. I definitely gained weight from all the great food you guys sent. So you really felt the love of the community. It felt like we were coming together for one purpose to, take care of this big problem. And to comment on your point, we are always busy. We're always doing things. We're always going to this event and that event and dropping kids off here and, doing all this stuff. And so it allowed us a time to kind of just pause too. And I
Mhm.
agree with you. My kids always complain, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, and they're stuck on their devices, pre-pandemic. I mean, they say that now too, but when you do something small, even just a family hike or, those things where I probably would have gotten a lot more complaints before. Okay, it's more exciting all of a sudden, because we've learned to appreciate what we have. So I think that's an important thing.
Absolutely. So for St. John's, we've been fortunate. The kids have been in school to some capacity in person, depending on age. They have different structures in place, and it's something where obviously they're wearing masks
Mhm.
regularly. There's social distancing within the school, obviously frequent hand washing, all the basics that
Mhm.
we
So
know and have implemented. So we've been fortunate with having a great structure within our school, and the school staff has worked tremendously in order to do that. Can you speak a little bit about how you feel now that the vaccines are rolling out, and how do we respond, with respect to staying the course?
yeah, so the vaccines are our goal to get us back to normal, okay? But we're not at that normal yet, right? So I've been vaccinated. Many of my family members have been vaccinated, as far as the adults, like my parents, etc. Um, but the disease right now in the community, so just going to the store, just going to the park, you may be exposed to COVID. COVID in the community is still pretty high, okay? So, in order for these vaccines to work, we have to have so many people vaccinated, okay? And we're not there yet, all right? We're getting there. And we're getting there quickly, but we have to make sure that we're doing all those things because the vaccines are not some magic thing that are going to take this away overnight, right? You need the disease to be much lower in our neighborhoods, right? In order for the vaccines to take effect. But they are there. They're there to get us back to normal, but we have to keep doing our part. So mask a bit longer, wash your hands always, because no matter what, that's not going away. But, if we could keep doing what we're doing, we're going to get there. And, this summer, this fall, it's going to feel so different. We just got to give it a chance and not let us, slip back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because my son's in kindergarten, and he came home after the first week of school back in the fall, and he's like, "You got to wash your hands before you eat anything." And I'm thinking to myself, when did that go away? Because we
Yeah.
always were supposed to wash our
Yeah.
hands before we ate. So some of this stuff is what, we were taught when we were younger, and it just, sometimes I think we take for granted, and we're not really thinking as much about, what we're touching, and, our hands to our mouth, even in a regular day, aside from a pandemic. So it helped with, I think, better habits and reminders of just generally how we're supposed to be. And even with like a regular flu season, for example. So
And we've really seen almost no flu now. Why? Because of masking, right? And
yeah.
and washing our hands. And germs are sneaky suckers.
Hmm.
They really like to find a way in. They like to find somebody to live on, and they're important for us in certain ways. But if we just do our basics, I think we can protect ourselves from even just getting that sniffle that makes you miserable every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think we can all do to help get through this unprecedented time? What more can the kids do in order to help us get to the next stage?
So I think, it's so easy to be outside, especially in the warm weather, and just want to do those things. And we should, right? It's really important to go outside for our health too, right? Our mental health, our emotional health, and our physical health, right? But I think we just have to be careful that we're not assuming that just because I'm outside, I can't get this disease. So, again, masking when possible, keeping our distance a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, go to the park, enjoy, but it's easy to wear a mask at the park, right? It may not be easy to wear a mask if you're running on the track, but, short, but where we can, we should, right? At least for now, so that we can get past this time and hopefully never have to think about it again. And I
Yeah, that
think
would
the
be
kids
nice.
are a big part of that because, you're hanging out with your friends, again, outside, you're biking, you're doing all those things, hopefully to keep some connection. But we just have to find ways to do it safely. So,
Yeah, and I think that the longer days and the warmer weather coming up will help. I know for me personally, the winter was tough with, the darkness, the cold. We had to be inside. It's a different level of what's safe than when you're outside for sure.
absolutely.
Great. That those were mainly my questions that I felt would help the audience at St. John's. Do you have any additional closing thoughts or comments you want to share with the kids?
Sure. So, I think it's been a long year. And, everybody is so excited to kind of get back to normal life, myself included. um, and it's been a hard year in a lot of ways. And we have a lot of emotions. And, moms and dads have those emotions, and kids have a lot of emotions going on. So I think it's important to be talking to each other and talking to our loved ones, our family members. And, you know, sometimes we just have to just even go for a walk to kind of clear some of those emotions, pick up the phone and talk to a friend. And I think the big thing is to know this is not going to be forever. We have the tool to help make this under control, and we're almost there. And if we just keep doing what we're doing, we will get there. So um, and I'm really proud of our kids. They've gone through a lot. um, and I think we underestimate their strength, and they really have shown a lot of strength in this. So I promise you, kids, we're gonna get there. Just keep doing it, and you know, science is coming to squash this like a bug.
That's fantastic. Well, and even aside from our conversation about the pandemic, I think it's amazing. Thank you again for all of your hard work and your colleagues, and just love hearing a fellow working mom juggling, holding the world on your shoulders, and the balance of life, and enjoying family. And it's not easy for me, so I always enjoy seeing
Not
it
easy.
when when I'm able to see a fellow parent just kind of creating that juggling act.
Yeah, it is a juggling, and we will drop the ball in somewhere, but we love you just the same, and we love our work just the same, and we all do just the best we can, and that's oftentimes the key to our success, right? Especially as a working mom, not everything's going to be perfect, but it's okay.
Well, and I also like to remind my kids that, anything that they're feeling, we also feel too. So it's not something that's just unique to kids.
Mhm.
It's something that we just have to learn to strike that balance and to communicate and express your
Mhm.
feelings or your concern, throughout your life. So, physical wellness is absolutely important, but so is emotional and mental wellness as well. So it's a complete bag.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I truly appreciate your time and your insight, and I know that the kids are going to love it too.
Oh, say hi to me for them.
Absolutely. Thank you
Uh,
again for all of your hard work.
all right, thank you.